Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World Warships, where today I'm going to be featuring the newer Tier 10 Premium German destroyer, the Z-42. It's a hybrid destroyer. I mean, you've got gunboats, you've got torpedo boats, but Z-42 is a hybrid destroyer. It's a mix of the torpedoes, it's the mix of the guns, but the guns perform better than the torpedoes, especially at the high tier, and you're going to see some examples of utilizing the torpedoes. We've got 3 different clips set up for you today, or 3 different battles. I'm just going to kind of pick and choose from here. Z-42 is available for 27,000 steel. You can pick it up for, I think if the coupon, it's like 20,250, the 25% off that you get once every 6 months. So typically you're trying to utilize those coupons for steel ships, if at all possible, versus the coal ships, since steel's a little more difficult to get than coal. With that being said, we did a poll this past week, and I'm convinced at this point that you guys do this on purpose. There's 1 or 2 of you that have to be doing this on purpose, where the polls, the last several I've done have always gotten tied. And Z-42 was tied with Utrecht, although Z-42 had a strong lead, and then it ended up coming down to Utrecht, tied with Utrecht. So I'll probably just do Utrecht next week, because I'm interested to test out and play the ship. I haven't played Utrecht at all yet, so I'll probably start playing it this weekend. So Z-42 won the poll, as I decided. So let's start talking about Z-42, and what I made to start with this. I will agree with the WoW's wiki on this, although I'm going to phrase maybe a little bit more proper English here, is that Z-42 doesn't really excel at any one particular role in the game. It's kind of like wargaming mesh several different kinds of ships and maybe playstyles together into one ship, but she doesn't really perform great if you try to force her more into being a torpedo destroyer. She doesn't play as great if you force her into just being solely a gunboat destroyer, because you're kind of going against how the ship has been designed. So let me kind of explain what I mean here. So in one sense, Z-42 reminds me where, with the short burst smoke, granted the hydroacoustic search is a German hydro 6 kilometer, Z-42 with the short burst smoke generators reminds me of how Daring performs, in the sense that you're kind of wanting to get in and contest caps, right? And you have the same distance in terms of the torpedoes being 10 kilometers, which sucks when you have maybe something like this Moskva here with 12 kilometer radar. Makes it a little more difficult. So she's at one sense kind of meant to work around caps, but also with her main battery guns, which she gets 8 105 millimeter guns with a pretty good reload time. The high explosive performance is bleh, but then the AP performance is pretty good. It's increased. So if you get broadside destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and etc., you should be firing armor piercing. But the ship doesn't play well where maybe you just go into this whole gunboating role and you're firing, but you have this 8% engine boost and you're trying to farm at range, and you have this longer, you can see this shell velocity travel time is it takes a while for it to reach the targets, right? And there's other boats that play the gunboat role better. In addition to, when we start talking about the hit points of Z-42, out of 37 destroyers, she ranks 28th for having, in terms of worst survivability hit points. So it's not like something like an L-Being or a Ragnar, Harugamo, Druid, Hull, these other DDs that have a lot more hit points but also have repair parties. So then it makes you conscious. I think that's probably the best way I can explain Z-42, is I find myself regularly playing quite conscious with the boat, because you don't have a lot of hit points to play with overall. And of course you take Survivability Expert, you take the Charlie Kilo combat signal, but it's not like you just have to be mindful, because you want to try to save your hit points if you find yourself in certain engagements with enemy destroyers, right? So let's try and just talk more about let's maybe talk about the playstyle, then I'll get more into specifics on the ship. So really, in terms, in my opinion, of how the ship plays, is that it's really meant for capture zones. You're kind of this bully a little bit at the capture points. Like you're trying to control the points fluctuation for your team if all possible. I mean, our other flank on this battle got completely wiped. So you're trying to dictate the engagement if you can, that you have this 6.2 conceal, but you have this 6 kilometer hydro, and then you get these short burst smoke generators. So it kind of, Z-42 allows you to kind of dictate these, let's say, short engagements, because you don't want to just be open gunboating if at all you can help it. So like here, like I use the smoke because you get a lot. You get like 7 smokes, I think. If you go for superintendent, you get 7 smokes. So I'm giving the ability for my battleship here, because I need him to live if we have any shot at this, to be able to disengage, go quiet if he wants to. But I think the other battleship, the Poison's probably still going to keep him lit here in this example. So the playstyle is you're trying to control capture zones, and we have Lucians here. So you get to proxy or proctor activate some of the talents here. So like we get a faster reload time now, like negative 7.5% reload on the main battery guns, which is really helpful. You have to get 140 main battery hits. So you can get that quite early on. But one of the things that I find kind of frustrating with Z-42 is it's that high explosive gunboat performance. Like we have how many main battery hits do we have? We have 213 main battery hits, but we only have 32,000 damage, right? So that's where the AP shines. You want to be able to utilize the AP as much as possible. Like here, I should probably already be switching it because I got enough angle on the Poison to be able to get some decent damage here. But I'm also trying to set fires, you know, but then this boat doesn't really set fires so well. I mean, we just set our first fire out of 200 plus main battery hits, right? So rather frustrating, and of course some of those have been armor-piercing shots as well throughout this battle. But like here's like one of the shining examples here. So we just activated the smoke not so long ago, and now we have this Forrest Sherman who's pushing into us. Now, of course, this Forrest Sherman, he has a 5 kilometer hydro. So I get a 1 kilometer like gap on him, if you will. So I want to be able to keep the distance here with him, if at all possible. So he's, you know, coming closer, but I'm still trying to push away. And so he's just getting frustrated and opening up on us. So this is like one of those examples where we kind of get to control the engagement. But it's been ironic to me how many times I have enemy destroyers just push into my smoke and push into the hydro. It's really dumb. I don't understand, but it's happened multiple times with me in the course of playing Z-42. So you just slowly but surely melt them down like so. You know, here we're gonna go down. There's not much we can do. Yeah, the Poison doesn't have his hydro up. We're being pushed in here. You know, now with over 330 some main battery hits, and we're only at 72,000 damage. So the boat really wants for you to fire armor piercing as much as possible. You know, great, our smoke's back and ready, but of course the Marseille knew we were slowing down to disengage. So here's an example where there was a DD that Doom just took out with the Jutland. So I was bringing my hydro over, and I'm going to come over here and support. For those of you who saw the Naughty or Nice video on, was that Wednesday? Tuesday I uploaded that. This is the clip I was talking about where this Zal really ends up pissing me off. You understand why. I'm like, I wasn't like super angry. It was just like yeah, you'll see. Anyhow, so really this playstyle ultimately is Z, which I'm actually would be really interested to see how this Z-42 plays in ranked. I think this might be a little bit more of a beast for ranked than I would say randoms, in my honest opinion. I mean, the high explosive DPM is really poor on the boat, but when you start talking about the AP DPM, it's actually like really good. So just to pull it up, in terms of the best armor piercing damage performance, AP DPM, she ranks 4th, right? But that means getting ships that you're going to get broadside on, that aren't angled, ships that don't have like battleships that maybe they have a lot of armor, and it's harder to pin, right? So then you end up relying more on your high explosive, because then you're like, okay, well, I'll try to force fires and stuff like that. The torpedoes, in my opinion, are really more of an afterthought, or you're trying to keep them when people just rush you in your smoke. It keeps happening to me lately. I don't know why. So you can torp them as they close the distance in on your smoke screen. It can also, utilize torpedoes for controlling avenues. Like I got some torpedoes off there early in case the destroyer went off right around the flank. The torpedoes have a pretty decent reload time. It's not like they take forever. Let's see. Let's pull it up here. And I don't see it. Reload time. 100 seconds without adrenaline rush or building into like fill the tubes or anything like that, or upgrades. But they're only 10-kilometer torps, and they only hit for 13,700. But they have decent detectability range. Like, it's not bad. It's not great. So you do have that at least going for you. It's the Jaeger that's spotting us right now on the enemy team. The Zal with its 203s gets like it's a 7.1, 7.2 smoke fire penalty. So he decides to shoot the Libertad within 6 kilometers away, or at least the Jaeger is able to spot him. So I give him a well done, because like it was so stupid. Like I took damage, I came over here to smoke him up, but he's just gonna fire his main battery guns and just die to the Libertad now, because reasons, right? So really dumb. This is a little dangerous for me because the Jaeger torps are so fast, and I don't have Hydra right now. But we know we do ultimately want to get out, so it's a bit risky for me to go broadside. But I know Jaeger is more focused on the Zal. So anyhow, so we're gonna come around the corner here. So you're gonna see some. The goal is to show you the examples of the armor piercing doing really well. So we have this Genon coming out. So it's going to briefly spot us, and then you can pay attention to the damage numbers and the pins. So mostly penetration, some overpins. Nice little 4.5K salvo there. So a couple of those salvos, and you're bringing down a Jaeger, or sorry, not Jaeger, a Genon quite quickly. And I'm going to have a Smolensk come up here as well. But I don't have to worry about eating torpedoes from Genon, right? Because it's only deep water torpedoes. And I'm going to be starting to try to work on getting up to the 140 main battery hits. Like, it's really great to take Lucians on Z-42 just because of that talent with having a faster reload time. Probably tomorrow I'll talk about the talents. I'll break that down. I'm not going to go into that as much today. But there's a few things that help you a lot with Z-42 and having Lucians on between the getting 140 main battery hits, have a faster reload time. But then also, if you get 3 spotted ribbons, then you get a small buff to your heal, or a small, I don't remember the duration, but you get a heal that activates for a short amount of time on Z-42 with the Lucian skill after 3 spotted on enemy ships. So that's nice. So that helps with that lack of hit points that Z-42 ultimately suffers from. So going more in terms of the specifics on the ship, like, of course we're going to be firing more high explosive on the Z as he's running away, and then switch back to AP on Genon, but then when he goes more bow in, like, we'll switch back to high explosive. Like the Libertad, we're going to be shooting a lot more here, but Libertad's covered in 51mm armor, right? So we're not going to get a lot of pins, despite, again, how many main battery hits, ribbons you'll end up seeing me with as this game before I transition to the next battle, if you will. It looks great on paper, but it's like, oh, I'm not really doing a lot of damage, right? So that's really where you need to be mindful of trying to fire armor piercing more often. Like here, I'm firing more at range, so I'm not really confident that the AP will do a lot of damage because of the shell velocity and losing the pin for this longer distance. In terms, like, the shells are just coming like directly down on the deck of Libertad, and I think it's still a 51mm. So like at this point, I'm just trying to see if I can get some fire set on him and keep utilizing this island, because I don't really feel super comfortable open gunboating with Z-42. I mean, your engine boost, to talk more about specifics of ships literally now, is an 8% engine boost. I'm building into the hydro duration versus more of the engine boost duration, right? So then we have to choose between those two in the second slot, and we get our fire here. Second fire after many main battery hits already. And you got the smoke, right? So the smoke is quite trollish when you get to utilize it between firing, controlling contesting caps. Like this game, things are wrapping up really fast for the enemy team, so I didn't even pay attention to C because it's quite difficult if your team loses the 9-10 line and you have DDs, ships coming from that. It's the shorter life is clearly hard to go from C out to the 9-10 line, so it's just a little bit more of let's secure the 9-10 line and then we can collapse the flank and move in here in this game. So the ship really is set up for these kind of short duration engagements, if you will, with your smoke screen, or if you're just caught out in the open and you have to take the gunfight. So what I have experienced so far with Z-42 is that it doesn't really feel like this boat is a boat that you take to get a lot of damage in terms of the destroyers, right? Like I would just be going more for other destroyers. Like one of the things that kind of gets me with Z-42 is honestly I'd rather play Harugumo over Z-42. You know, Harugumo is just a tech tree ship. I mean, you have with the Harugumo, one is that you do have the high explosive DPM is like fourth, the top four, or it's fourth out of 37 of the tier 10 destroyers. You talk about the AP DPM. AP DPM is the best of all tier 10 destroyers, with Z-42 again at fourth. There's about a 34,000 DPM difference between Harugumo and Z-42. You get a faster reload time with Harugumo. You get another turret. You get 5 turrets with Harugumo. With the 100mm guns they have on Harugumo. Like if you take IFHE, you're pinning 37mm with a high explosive on Z-42. You're pinning 26mm, which does help when you end up running into other destroyers that have like the 25mm belt, like Ragnar, and I think Hoffman and Schultz, maybe some of the others. So you don't have to switch to your AP like you have to do on a lot of other DDs that don't get like the quarter penetration value that Z-42 is getting with these 105s. Or Harugumo, if you take IFHE, then you're pinning 37mm, right? So in terms of like damage, like Harugumo, in my opinion, is just a much better overall choice. I mean, with Harugumo, you're still getting the engine boost. You're still and then you also get a torpedo reload time. You get longer duration smokes, and you get torpedoes that perform way better than Z-42. So it's just interesting in terms of what Wargaming has done with Z-42 overall, like that I just find the boat, like as the Wireless Wiki says, like it doesn't really excel at any one role. It's more of, I would say it's a destroyer that you take if you want to focus on securing capture zones and objectives. Other than that, that's really all the boat does. Again, I'm really interested to see how Z-42 would perform in ranked. I think it would kind of be this little bit of the star. You take on the enemy DD, you know, you've got this 6-kilometer hydro that if you build for it will last, the action time will be like over 150 seconds, I think. Where like you have other destroyers like, let's say, I think about this from off the top of my head. Gdansk, even though Gdansk is quite trollish because the cooldown time on the radar is so atrocious. But then you have like boats like Ragnar, things like that can be a bully at the cap only for a short duration based off the radar or the focus fire of other teammates helping you out ultimately. So Z-42, to get the most out of it's focusing on the capture zones and trying to play around with other teammates ultimately. We had the Benham we were trying to take out here at this cap, and we get to be a bully, right? So we took out the Naoming. Benham's really low, and Benham ultimately just leaves this flank. So now it's more the issue is like having to deal with the Golden Line and the Satsuma that end up pushing the flank here. So then, yeah, okay, we took control. Where Z-42 suffers in an example like this is if there would have been like a radar cruiser, like let's say there's a Moskva, a Petrol, maybe a Des Moines, maybe there's a aircraft carrier, right? Because your AA sucks on Z-42, it's black, like maybe you'll do okay against tier 8 CVs, but you'll just get crapped on by tier 10 CVs and super CVs. Of course, having the hydroacoustic search works out really well when you're dealing with submarines, right? And that's helpful in that regard. It depends on if you get games where you have submarines or not. You know, so like here, because I know the APM is one of the strengths of Z-42, what I want to do is I want to get around on the side of the Golden Lion and be able to pump a lot of damage into him. And ultimately, I would have been able to do that more easily here, but the Satsuma is going to kind of come up and bully me away from being able to. And my battleships are going to end up ironically kind of running away. We have the cap. There's still an enemy presence here. But the battleships just kind of end up fleeing. So that ends up, in my opinion, it's kind of dim. But I guess there is a destroyer, or maybe Benham's still around here at sea. So I can't step up onto sea because of the Golden Line still sitting there. Like, you know, there's a nice 5K salvo. Got some information there that the Benham's probably a little bit further up into the north end of sea cap. But at least the Golden Line knows I'm trying to work around on the side. And ultimately that he wants to try to get the island between me and him, and maybe I can force him enough forward that my battleships have the ability to punish him here. So we end up smoking, and we're going to take some blind shots here. We'll see what happens, but otherwise, like with the smoke, even if Golden Line goes back in behind the island here, I can just switch to the Satsuma, but I'm probably going to be switching to high explosive and set some fires here. So what you end up seeing with Z-42, because one is the torps, you know, they're slow. They're 62 knots. They only go 10 kilometers. Like, you end up you yourself end up easily getting bullied depending on what's going on. Like, you know, Satsuma, that's a lot of hit points to chew through. I can't chew through a Satsuma hit point pool on Z-42 like I can on Harugumo, as an example. You know, the boats, you know, they play different. There's a little bit of a different design there, but I'm more confident in a situation like this with Harugumo than I am Z-42. So what you have to do is with the short burst smoke, at least, one of the things that helps you out here is that you end up kind of backing off. You smoke, you engage shortly, your smoke goes away, you go dark, you fall back, and it's kind of like you just keep getting pushed back ultimately, right? And, you know, like Satsuma and other battleships, there's a lot of them that have a really good torpedo protection hit, you know, where it cuts down how much damage ultimately they're going to take from the torpedoes. I'm still trying to spot the Golden Lion here. So other things to make mention of, I guess I should talk about the depth charges. The depth charges on Z-42, let's see their damage rating. They rank 21 out of 37, so it's a 40-second reload, and you get 12, and they do 2,400 damage a pop with a 31% chance of flooding and 10% fire chance. So, you know, the depth charges aren't impressive. They're mediocre. Like, you know, yeah, maybe you could say there was a lot of hype around Z-42 when it was first going to be introduced in the game. Like, was that back in, I can see here. Yes, in early 2023, and they kind of kept toying with it, moving it around in that. I mean, I like it in general. Like, maybe I need to play Z-52 more, but maybe there's a part of me that I kind of like. Maybe I like Z-42 more than Z-52. I don't know. It's been a while since I touched Z-52. I'd have to kind of go back and check. But overall, I would say Z-42 is just kind of, it's there. It's not amazing. It's not, or nor is it terrible. Z-42, I think the challenge with Z-42 is, I think it is a somewhat balanced boat to an extent, but it has a lot of competition among the other tier 10 destroyers. You know, if you're talking about, you know, the gunboat Hull, you know, Hull, of course, it's for research bureau points, but Hull is a destroyer that you can only have like 3 repair parties, and ultimately you can heal, like, let's say 50,000 damage, 48,000 damage I've done before. And you've got 3 203s, right? You've got Elbing that has sick AP penetration that you can Citadel easily broadside cruisers, even heavier cruisers. it's more made for the gunboat, because everything with how Z-42 is designed is that she just doesn't excel. You can't build her in a way, in my opinion, and in terms of I played the ship so far, that I feel like the ship really excels in this like one area. It's just really made for controlling the caps. So if you're looking to play Z-42 and you're like, I want to throw 20,250 steel or 27,000 steel if you're going to spend full price, I want to throw steel at a destroyer that gets me a lot of damage, then I'd be like, Z-42 is not your boat. You know, you would want to take Ragnar much better to be able to get the damage overall with its main battery. So like I can easily get more damage with Ragnar than I can Z-42 in terms of steel. But then it's like, but then also I'd rather play Harugumo, a tech tree ship, over Z-42 ultimately. So I think I was expecting more out of the ship than what it actually gives. That could be me, that I came into playing Z-42 with wrong expectations. But trying to understand what the boat is, because it's not meant to just kind of farm out in the open. You don't have the hit points really for that. Maybe it's more easy to farm out in the open after you've dealt with enemy destroyers, but if you still have enemy destroyers on the board, you want to reserve your hit points for engaging them again later on. Or maybe you were hunting a submarine and maybe you're going to eat a torpedo before you get to kill the sub, as an example. Before the clip ends, you're going to see me as an example kind of get around on the side of Satsuma, that I end up kind of like, I want to get more damage before the game ends, so then I'm just going to utilize the smoke screen. Like, you know, here, like, golden lines outside my main battery range, and I can use the smoke as Satsuma closes in. I can still stay dark. Like, I'm dictating the terms of engagement here, but then I can switch to the armor piercing and get around. The other thing to even make mention of that I've not even talked about yet is also it's a really painful 180 degree turn time on the turret traverse. So if you take it, you don't take it on the commander, the grease the gears, but you take main battery mod 2 for 15% main battery traverse speed, then it's an 18 second versus a 20.7 second reload time, as an example. But if I compare the turret traverse to Harugumo, come here. So Harugumo has a 11.3 second 180 degree turn time. Z-42 has an 18 second. I think that's if you've taken the slots on it, or that's just how the Warships tools showing it. So I can get my 10 100mm guns on target a lot faster than I can Z-42's 8 105mm guns. So it's just interesting, and I think Z-42 has a lot of competition ultimately when you're comparing her to other tier 10 destroyers in the game. Maybe Z-42's time would have actually been like back in, let's say, 2021. Maybe the boat would have had a little bit more prominence in the game. But now I just kind of find her a very average destroyer. Like, Ragnar is much better when you compare these two steel destroyers side by side. Because, I mean, honestly, like, like the way the torpedoes perform on Z-42 is I'd rather them just take away the torpedoes on Z-42 and give me maybe a faster engine boost, more hit points, a faster reload time on the main battery. Would also be really nice. But just take the torps away, because 10-kilometer torps that go 62 knots and only do 13,700, then you talk about torpedo belt protection hits, then you instantly drop beneath 10.9K if you're hitting battleships and that in the game. It's just really like maybe you're trying to get a DCP used off an enemy ship, maybe burn a repair party, or you're just trying to get a flood after you set them on fire, but then like you don't set fires with this poor high explosive performance and this small fire chance that Z-42 has. So it's just really interesting. I just feel like they took several different destroyers in the game and then they're like outbirthed Z-42, and then it was like they all looked at Z-42 and it's like, meh, it's okay. And basically that's what we got. I think they nerfed it through testing, but don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. So I'll show you my build tomorrow. I'll do upgrade commander build video. I could be wrong that like maybe I should be building for range on Z-42. But then when you go into that mentality, it's like, but why are you building in a range when you get this kind of powerful 6-kilometer hydroacoustic search and this short bow smoke generator that's kind of designed to get you into the capture zones and the key objective areas, right? So it's just kind of like you end up in this conundrum, if you will, when you try to take the ship to being like an extreme gunboat destroyer or extreme torpedo boat destroyer, because it doesn't really do either of those things well. It just kind of does both worlds somewhat decently okay as a hybrid DD. And then you're just like, well, I'd rather just play these other destroyers over Z-42. At least that's what I have found in terms of my time of playing the boat. So if you have Z-42, let me know your comments below, what you think on the boat. Interested to hear your thoughts if you all already have the ship and have had some time playing with it. The one thing that's a wild card for me still is, like, I would really like to know how Z-42 plays in ranked. I think Z-42 probably performs better in ranked than she does in randoms, which is kind of an odd statement almost, if you will. But that's just a hypothesis. I haven't tested it out because I haven't been playing ranked at all a lot lately. So, and I have to go through the leagues, you know, bronze, silver league to gold league, I think, right now to get into tier 10, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. So, I don't know. Anyhow, if you liked this video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.